Christina Hill, and this is the Own Your Crap podcast. In my early 30s, I found myself in a dangerous downward spiral of depression and misery, and I truly thought my life was over. Until an amazing teacher told me that the secret to my healing was to own my crap. Literally own it. Accept it for what it is and move forward from there. And I can honestly say that from that day on, everything in my life changed. So I'm here to help you, inspire you, and guide you so that you too can own your crap and live your best fucking life. Each week, I want to take you on a journey that helps you figure out a path that works for you. A path to change, nurture, and develop what I consider to be the pillars of a happy and successful life. Your mental health, your physical health, and your financial health. As well as stories, tips, and tricks from my own life, I want to share with you some nuggets of gold from some of the most amazing special guests. I'm super grateful for you joining me on this journey. And if you like what you hear, or if you know someone who could benefit from this, then please share, like, and follow this podcast. It really helps get the message to people who need it. Now, get ready to own your crap. So, hey everyone, welcome back to the Own Your Crap podcast. We are here for another week and I have another super amazing guest, and I am genuinely excited to have Gavin Hyde on today. He is someone who has, like so many of us, gone through some crap in his life and has created something that is just super special and is now in a place where he is able to go out and help others change their life in ways that they probably never thought possible. I came into contact with Gavin only just a few weeks ago through a mutual contact of ours, through Mel Brandt, actually, who's been on the show. And I'm super excited to have you here, Gav. Welcome. Thank you for coming on.
Thanks, Christina. It's an honor and a joy, and I look forward to having just an awesome conversation with you. And I hope that something I say today can make a massive difference to your listeners.
Oh, great, brilliant. And I'm sure it will. So as I do with all of my guests, I like to start off with having you explain a little bit about you, what your story is, what your background, and what's brought you to the place that you're at now.
Cool. Okay. Well, it was late sometime back last century in the late 90s that I manifested my greatest fear. And that was that my partner at the time would leave me. Actually, it was that my partner would die and I'd be left to raise my two young sons. Yeah. So thank goodness that she didn't die. Yeah. Our relationship did, and it was toxic, and it was all of that stuff that we've probably all been through. And what actually occurred one day was that she knocked on my door and said, "Here's the kids. I'm getting out of Sydney. I think, you're a good father. You can look after them, and we'll reassess some point down the track." So that was a real catalyst for me to go on a deep dive into. I was really curious to how you can have thoughts that then manifest. So I had the greatest fear, seriously, the greatest fear that I'd have to raise my sons, and that's what happened. So not only did I need to work and sort myself out, I was in a really horrible personal situation within myself. I was barely able to get through a day. I was dependent on marijuana. One's too many, three's not enough, was my saying back at that time. And that was my coping mechanism to not deal with all the emotional stuff. I was chronically anxious, and I didn't realize that until I stopped smoking. And I was just fueled with rage, and I was angry at the world. And that day that my sons arrived on my doorstep, I could just see the shame in their eyes. Obviously, they didn't have shame in their eyes. I could just see a disappointment reflected through their eyes of myself. And I needed to sort myself out for me and for my son. So that took me on a massive journey of self-discovery. I needed to find answers. I needed to clean my act up. I needed to take responsibility. And amongst that, I believe we always have choice. So I could have chosen to say no, not really, but I could have chosen to say no.
Yep.
But I think the bigger thing here, I could have chosen to be a victim to my circumstance. And I think that taking responsibility for my part of the relationship breakdown and then taking responsibility for my role as a father, regardless of if it's in a relationship or not, I think was huge. And so after about, I think maybe 6 to 9 months of caring for my sons, I left my government job because I just couldn't do that anymore, which, you know, your listeners probably will relate to, you know, in regards to if there's only one of you and you've got to do two roles, like when I was a part-time father, I could take them everywhere and do everything. Someone called it like the Disneyland parent or something. Someone was saying that to me, you know, you do all the good things. But now that I was the responsible one, the Disneyland parent thing was kind of out. So I was lost, totally stuck in life. I was stuck in a whole lot of stuff from the past, and that wasn't helpful for me or my kids. So I moved out of the area. You know, we talk about getting out of the comfort zone, and nothing good happens inside the comfort zone.
Yes,
I left
absolutely.
the area I'd lived. I left the area I'd lived my whole life. That you know, my kids were going to the same school, probably going to repeat the same stuff, right? That of my beliefs anyway, or my thoughts, my vision for how things were. So I moved out of that area, moved out from a job to actually become a single parent, and become a single parent on a pension. The people that I judged back at that, like way back. And, you know, when you have to catch yourself and look at yourself in the mirror, there's some horrible things that you see. And I'm sure that you understand, you know.
Absolutely, yes.
And it's like, it takes courage to sit with all of that.
Yeah.
But I had to sort that out because I had a huge choice and a huge responsibility to make change in my life. So that just sent me down the rabbit hole. So what I really didn't know, and this is like, I've been reflecting on this for some time, was I didn't know by making that choice actually freed me up to create a lifestyle that I would not know at that time that I would actually come to love. Because what I did was I enrolled in a diploma of sports therapies because I like sport. And I thought, hey, I could do this. It would work around working with or raising my kids, and I had to go back to school and study. But when I reflect back, I'm like, I actually bought into a lifestyle thing, right? That a lot of people are wanting or looking for or breaking away into now. And it was actually doing stuff that I love. So kind of by default, in my darkest hour, I made a huge call. And so, you know, what's that, 20 something years later, I became a massage therapist, but then I became a kinesiologist. It changed my life. I don't know if anyone's experienced kinesiology, but man, this guy was asking questions and pushing on my arm, and answers were coming out that I'm like, no one would know. Like, how do you know that? And he just had a great set of tools, and he'd ask questions, and what would happen is stuff would come out. I would now say it was my shadow was coming out, and I was like, what is this? So I became a kinesiologist. I implemented everything. I learnt. I would apply it to my kids. That would help them with their I remember doing some little processes with my son, and his writing was like, he was writing would be on the line, and as he wrote across the page, it would drift upwards. And in the book it said, if you do this thing, that, you know, it'll help with this, you know, help with that problem. And so I did this crazy stuff where I just got him to move his eyes and rub some acupoints and got him to write again, and the writing was on the line. I'm like, wow, this is magic. So I think I just tapped into a magic, and I followed it and became a kinesiologist and a kinesiology trainer. And then I just kept exploring more and more and more. But I was still looking for that thing of inside the mind of, you know, how what we think about, we bring about. And so I just kept exploring and doing more studying and more learning and teaching people, and then mentoring students at big colleges and so forth. So for the last, and this cutting a long story short, but for the last 25 years, what I've been doing is helping people to get unstuck in life. And the unstuckness really is that they have old programs or patterns of thinking or software, I like to call it. And that software that they're operating off, it's like Windows, 1980, if there's such a thing, right? And the biggest problem I think I found in all of that is that, especially in the personal development industry, is there's a perception, or there's a bit of a flaw that I found in the model, that people are looking to find the next process. So the how to.
Yeah.
If I find that thing, how I can overcome this problem, then all my problems will be solved. And the problem with that is that they're looking to solve the problem outside of themselves.
Yes. Yeah.
And what will happen, especially in the personal development industry, is you'll find a lot of people that love it and they explore it, but they don't really take a lot of action around it. And they keep buying the next program or the next how-to thing or the next shiny thing that they think will take them from, let's say, like where I was at, being stuck in my life in a really horrible, dark, deep place, to this, place of where I feel like, as much as I can in society, I have the choice and the call about what I do, who I do it with. And, the word is freedom, right?
Yeah.
We hear this thrown around a lot. If you do this, you'll get time freedom, location freedom, emotional freedom, financial freedom. But really, at the end of the day, it's awesome to have all of those things, but the freedom is just a feeling. And so I believe everyone is searching for a feeling, because it's not the achievement of the goal, that's the journey. And so the journey is to be cherished, but it's the secondary gain, or it's the what's the feeling that I'm going to get by accomplishing that. And the thing that I love helping people with, whether it's just everyday people or people in business, is getting them to kind of swallow the how-to, in the sense that, because if you look at, how do I do this? How do I use this process to get to where I need to be? That's a problem within itself, because you have a perception that you're not where you need to be. And underneath that, if you really unpack that, it's probably going to come down to, I'm broken, or there's something wrong with me at a deeper level. And we can justify all of that through our experiences of growing up and all that type of stuff. That the underlying theme underneath, let's say, I'm broken is that something's missing, or there's something that I'm not getting.
Yeah.
And I need to fulfill a need. Now that's got addiction written all over it.
Yeah.
Because what's an addiction? Addiction is, I'll smoke a cigarette. Your body repulses the cigarette because it's poison. Your body has an innate knowing, and it will repulse the cigarette because it knows it's poison. But why do people go back and have a cigarette? Because it may be the cool thing to do, because all the cool cats do it, or all the cool kids. I'm just using my experience. There's probably something else these days. But so underneath it all is, there's a perception that our needs aren't being met. And if we take the next how-to thing, let's get on the how-to bus to Bondi, then I'm going to find that thing. And so for me, the key is installing in systems internally for someone, because if you see someone as their brilliant best, their energetic best, their ideal self, like at the end of the day, everything's energy anyway, we're not broken. So the big problem is, if you're not aware or thinking that you're running off, there's something not right, there's something that I'm missing out of, or something that needs fixing, that's a perception that I'm not whole. And so looking at someone as a client, or whoever that might be, as a whole, and buying into their vision of what it is that they want to be, their brilliant best, to embody, or to come back home to that ideal self, if that's what you call it. That they're already there. It's just a matter of helping them to, when I kind of say come home, give them a process, because we need the process to learn, but giving them the process to install internally, and they'll never need another program or a personal development program for the rest of their life, because they have a process that they can make their own. And so, there's all of this, people will procrastinate, they'll sabotage themselves. They will, but, that just links into fear. And it's fear of change. And the brain essentially is not wired to change, but it can, because science validates that it has a plasticity around it. And so I just figure that, and because I've been in the industry a long time, and I've done lots of courses and lots of programs, I've always heard these things. Oh, that's in the next course, or that's in the next level, or this process works for all of these things except this. And I'm like, so what that really opens up is I have to continue to learn more. Like, it's like a loop that is left open, and you never find that answer, because the answer exists within you.
Yes. Yeah.
And so when you're able to have the trust in yourself, because there's and I'm going to use this word a lot if I can get it out, intrinsically, within yourself, right?
Yes.
You know what's right. It's the logic part of the brain that ticks off, no, that's not right, that's not the right thing, that's the wrong thing. And that's based on a part of the brain that's comparing things that have happened in the past. That's a massive problem. And so I just love the fact that I can have conversations all day, every day, helping people and it's just a perceptual shift. Like, hey, I don't have choice, to maybe throwing up a suggestion to get someone to think a little differently, to go, oh, I do have choice. I'm actually making good choices. And then what happens is they have alignment. They're back online with who they are. Smile comes on their face. They feel better. They feel better. Something energetically surges inside.
Oh, I love this. There's so much in here to unpack, and in that your answer just now, I saw so many bits of our previous conversations sort of come out of there, and I know that even just the couple conversations we've had, I have gained so much insight into the way we work in our brain, the way we have that software, the way it works to compare, to judge, to see things that are missing, rather than going, I am where I am, and that is just, I'm whole, I am beautiful, I can make this decision different, that decision different, I can't change the past. And that's, I think, a big key thing that people get hung up on when they are stuck in their crap and they are going through a traumatic time, that we look backwards so much, rather than just taking a few moments to be in the here and now and go, I have, and like you said, that all those answers are within me. And your soul knows. And when you're in that dark, bad place, and if you're in a relationship that's toxic, or you have a toxic relationship with food or whatever it is, that little intuitive voice, the one that usually we hate so much because it's right, going, I can do this differently. But if we can change our perception to love that voice, to listen to it, and to bring it to the front more, and then have the courage to take action from there, I think a lot of people can be in so much more a place of joy, a place of peace and comfort. And can you tell me how, I don't know if you can say just how kinesiology works, and I've heard a lot about it, but I don't know enough about it. As a modality, how does that help people unlock those barriers and change that? And I know from our previous conversations, you mentioned it is energy on a cellular level. I'd love to know more about how people can understand it a bit better, and then maybe take the choice to, if it might help them in their journey.
Sure. Great. I goosebumped up. I think you said the word soul, and I'm like, wow. The hairs on the back of my neck were standing up, as I was just really encased in all of that. But to answer your question in regards to, how does kinesiology work? Kinesiology is just a set of tools. And like massage is a set of tools. NLP is it's a set of tools. They're just tools. But it's really, the linking of the interpretation, or I'll use the word that you said, the energy, because it really is utilizing the energy. Because let's say when I was teaching kinesiology, I used to teach the students, and I used to say to them, and I'd close my eyes and turn my head, and I would say, you have to listen to the feel. And I said, what does that mean? Listen to the feel. Like, kinesiologists use muscle testing as a way of accessing the nervous system, asking a set of really good questions to get responses of stress from the nervous system. So, and then based on that, the body has this innate healing or innate knowing, and it's kind of tapping into the energy system. So it's a combination of chiropractic. You're asking me to dig up a whole lot of stuff that I haven't taught for years, but it's still there, right? But
yeah,
it came out of a chiropractic, where chiropractors use or work with the physical body, and they work with muscles, and it then utilizes traditional Chinese medicine, acupuncture and energy systems within the body. And then, one guy, kind of one of the forefathers, I suppose you would say, in kinesiology, kind of brought those two together and kind of ask some questions and come up with a framework and a process, a way of tapping into this energy system, asking questions and getting answers from the body, much like a computer operator. Like if you, okay, this day and age, because I wouldn't have said it back then when I was teaching, but it's like, if you want to find information, if I want to find out any information, I need to find out where a mechanic is in my area. What am I going to do? I'm going to Google it.
Yeah.
And so it's like, kinesiology was like doing a Google search, but it's specific to that person. But it's just like, let's say if you're working one-on-one with someone, it's the combination of the two people working together. But there's a greater force, a greater source, a greater field, which is energy. And so everything really is energy. And so if someone's stuck, I hear a lot in the personal development industry, you've got a limiting decision or a limiting belief. Let's clear that out. And so I was always like, but how do you do that? Like, I know that you can follow the process, but there was something that never really gelled around that for me. Maybe it's my way of mismatching sometimes the way I'm thinking. I'm like, I don't really believe everything that people kind of tell me, that works. I'm kind of like, well, why does it work? And I need to understand that. But when I kind of look at, if it's a limiting belief or whatever it is, it's just microscopic energy. It's it's electrical and chemical impulses within the body that switches on and switches off. Even a cell is that. Energy is produced inside of a cell. You got a fatty membrane on the outside of a cell. If that fatty membrane becomes hard, so to speak, let's say from a nutritional perspective, the goodness, you can be utilizing all of the nutrition, that you can, or supplements or whatever, the nutrients can't get into the cell and the waste can't get out. So based on a cellular, everything is energy. And so a limiting belief is just a polarized cell, or, your gut kind of knows when things aren't right, but you don't listen to it. You were speaking, you're talking about, you have this voice and it's like, just don't listen to it, because if you were to listen to it and follow it, it would actually be there's no comparison frame to that apart from your own. And then you'll compare the frame of how you've made decisions and things on the past and where you failed, because the brain's looking to look out for perceived threats. So it's on this, I'm looking out for threats. And so I'm going to kind of look at what's not going to work. And then all of this happens logically and nothing happens intuitively. So for me, everything really is energy. And so when I have stuff that comes up in my life, so sure, we live in a duality, a world of duality. Like, not everything's freaking joy. Not everything is enlightenment. It's like, it's learning to deal with that contrast. So when things don't work out, it's like, someone posted something this morning and it's like, life is our education. And I'm like, yeah, because stuff happens and it's not pretty. But it's like, how do you actually manage that? Do you get caught in it? You don't feel it? Because, we don't learn these things about feeling. Essentially, the systems that we have kind of set us up to explore more things later on in life. I won't say that they're faulty, but they don't really work.
Yeah.
You know, you go to school and you learn all of these things that are set up for a specific thinker and not for other thinkers. And so that system is kind of faulty, kind of within itself. And so we go through life having experienced things, whether it's our environment or whatever, the systems that just don't work for us. And I think people just get stuck in the systems. Yeah. And what they do is, just to kind of confirm what you were saying as well, they want to create a brighter future. They kind of know what they want. You ask them, what do you want? I want to create a brighter future. And then in the next breath, they're telling you how they actually can't get that. So they're kind of looking through the lens of the past. They're wanting to go forward. They've got their hands on the wheel, but instead of looking, you know, through the windscreen, they're looking in the revision mirror of the past. And that they're making like comparisons or judgments based on past experiences. And that can become a real problem for people. That can become a real we're talking about the car. That's a real handbrake.
Yeah.
You know, mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, there's no real separate levels. We kind of call them those or categorize those, but it's just energetically.
Yes.
So, you know, for me, learning a skill, making decisions that I've made, applying that to myself, which is no different to what I had to do to sort myself out all those years ago because I was in a bad place.
Yep.
I just continued to do things that work for me, and then that enables me to turn up and just be myself. Nothing really to prove. Like I love talking, I love presenting, I love asking questions, because what it does is it does something energetically. I get goosebumps. It lights me up. And I think people are a little confused around what's important for them. Like, you know, we might hear about what's important, or you know, you may have heard the term, you know, what's my values, you know, but there's golden values, like it could be health, or it could be wealth, or it could be freedom, or it could be, but they're all the things that we know. I think the wealth is in the wound. And so the ability to dig into the shadow, to explore what we perceive is missing, because once it's, you know, what do they say? Once you see it, you can't unsee it. And when you can just be in that space, expressing that and owning that and nourishing your cup, I feel what happens is you become a magnet for attraction. You don't have to, you're utilizing, what do you want to call it? The universe. You're utilizing energy in a way where it comes to you, and that's not a system. You know, Esther Hicks would say, if anyone's listened to Esther Hicks, we've been on the cruises. My wife and I, when we got married, I kind of did it in reverse. It's like we booked the cruise. I'm like, oh, maybe we should get married and have that as the honeymoon. So we were on a law of attraction cruise. And
wow.
Like we love that stuff. And you know, or Abraham, the energy that she brings in, right? You know, step one is know what you don't want. That creates a rocket of desire for what you do want. So basically, out of what you don't want creates a rocket of desire. That's a polarity. Bring that down to a cell, you know, positive and negative energy. Bring that to a battery. You have a positive and a negative end. You put it in the right way in the electrical thing that you need to use as a remote control that works. You put it around the other way, it doesn't work. It's polarized.
Yeah.
And so what Esther Hicks would say is, step one is to know what you do want. Step two is not your work. And so that's where the problem lies. Step two, people get stuck in, how do I now do that?
Yes. And this is where manifestation comes in, and people don't quite realize when you're manifesting, be it good or bad. And anyone who's in a bad place right now, as hard as it is, it sucks. And I didn't like the self-realization that I manifested, and you said that you manifested your worst nightmare based on the subconscious and conscious choices and decisions you made. The exact same opposite thing is for what you do want, but your job is not to question and not to decide the how, the path, because the path might logically look linear to, you know, get to health, wealth, freedom, whatever it is. And yeah, we see lifestyle freedom is all over the place in social media. That doesn't mean that's going to be easy. You might go, ultimately, yeah, that's where I want to go. But a couple of things, you've got to be accepting and almost okay and go, yep, this is where I am now. I'm in the shit, and I'm going to sit in the shit for just a little while till I'm ready to get myself out of it. Because if you're not ready to pick yourself up, then it's like quicksand, you'll just sink even more. You've got to be ready to move in a way that will help you get out. And then your journey to your ultimate destination could be all over the place. But as long as you're still going energetically in the right way, the universe will bring you options, opportunities, all sorts of things to help you get there. It just might not necessarily be the way you envisaged in the start. And for me, that's manifestation. And it's being open and aware to all the different opportunities that come at you. And if they're not great, what's the lesson to be learned of it? If you decided a path, it didn't work, what's the lesson to learn out of that? How do you grow as a person from that? And then go, okay, I've still got my goal in mind. I'm going to take another step in that direction. How do you think manifestation comes around with the path that you've had in your life? You said you manifested your worst situation. When it comes to manifesting the positive stuff, do you see where you might be able to offer people advice or help on how that, I mean, I use the word process, but it's not actually a process, but how that comes together.
Essentially, it kind of is a process, because everything has a process. So
it's just not a neat packaged one.
I think it's okay to have a process, because at some level to understand is powerful. But and so I'll do my best. It's a great question, by the way. I'll do my best to answer it. I just wanted to circle back around to when you said, you know, something. You said something, and I wrote down a word here. It's like, once you know what you don't want, you know what you do want. Our role, or the next thing, the next step, the action you need to do is maintain the feeling or the vibration of the thing it is that you want.
Yeah.
That's it. And because you explained it really well, where you said, you know, you didn't say it in that way, but then you said you think logically, which is where the how comes in. Because I know that I've been thinking about, hey, this is what I don't want. My desires are already there. Now, I remember spending a whole day gurneying the driveway, and I was loving just gurneying the driveway, and just in the place of, this is just great. And 5 leads come in, and this is a long time ago, before automation and all of this type of stuff. So really for me, so that's kind of one thing, but for me, it's like, you have to be able to imagine. Because if you are unable to imagine, because to imagine, okay, so let's take this a little bit further. When you see or information that's around us, there's only like 2% of information that we see that comes, like all the information, the data that comes in around us that we're bombarded by, and even more and more with technology and the world we live in now, only 2% is like you can see, which means the other 98% is actually processed inside of the brain. So what will actually happen is information will come in, and let's say if it's just information in words, it actually comes in upside down, and then it needs to kind of follow highways that cross over each other, and it needs to get to an end destination in the brain or in the neurology that's at the back of the head. Now that's where the visual cortex actually lives, in the back of the head. And so if there is a wall there, and it gets to the wall, it hits the wall, bounces back and comes back, crosses over all these pathways again, and comes out through your eyes. And then that's, you know, if your brain is all connected and integrated and working, then you'll have clarity. Now, And so to be able to imagine, you need the three major lobes of the brain all kind of connected together. And so to manifest, you need to be able to imagine the end result first. Start with the end in mind, because when you imagine, you're actually seeing, maybe not even visually, it could be using all of the internal senses. Some people see through words. Some people see through their own internal dialogue. Some people see through feelings. It's not just a visual sense.
Yeah.
So you have to be able to visualize, and I should say to imagine. And if your brain, if you're in some type of conflict, you have some negative feelings going on, and the language that you're talking is a repetitive thing, there's no way that you're going to be able to imagine the thing that you want. You're going to be able to imagine what you don't want.
Yeah.
Now that's going to elicit a whole lot of feelings, and then that's going to kind of connect to a whole lot of thoughts, and that's a vibrational match to what's happening inside of your mind and your body. Your nervous system isn't just your brain or your spine. So to manifest, you need to be able to imagine the feeling of the thing it is that you want, whatever that is.
Yeah.
And then, you know, the problem with the law of attraction is that if you're unable to manage that feeling, then you're not going to really, it's flawed, because it works sometimes and it works other times. Like, it's easy to get a parking spot. You ask Michael the parking angel, or whoever you call the angels of parking, and there's a spot all the time, right? But when there's like a $15,000 sale on the line, why does that not happen? Because there's a bit of a secondary gain, and all of this other kind of stuff comes online, and that whole manifestation changes. So I think what needs to happen is you need to go to the end result. You need to have a vision, and you need to make a commitment to doing whatever it is that you can to make that thing happen, whatever that is.
Yeah.
So I think it really comes down to more about making a commitment to doing whatever you need to do. Now, that's not really a how. I haven't said, I'm going to teach you the 3 steps here, step this and step this and step this, or you'll get X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
It's just like, you're most likely, correct me if I'm wrong, you're probably inside of your head now saying, so how do I do that?
Yeah, and it's like I said, that the path to what you want and your goal isn't necessarily linear. You know, I can say for my own experience, having a podcast, you know, if I was to look back a few years, wasn't part of my goal to connecting with people. I wanted to create a life of happiness and wealth and abundance. But then I saw an opportunity for this to be a step on that path. It's not like I thought about that before and go, oh, I'm going to create a podcast and it will get me to this place. It's like, well, no, I was on the path to where I wanted to be for myself and my family, and having that energetic, that, like you say, that feeling, that immersing myself. And I've read a lot about Abraham Hicks, and I love, you know, if anyone who doesn't know, go get yourself The Magic, The Secret, put your ideas of woo-woo aside, have open-mindedness about just the idea that we are connected to something far greater than us. If you're not a religious person or anything, there is such a feeling, and it's a feeling of, oh my God, this is possible. Okay, let's go. You know, what's this magic journey we're going to go on? And then go, oh, you know, the path is split. Now, which one feels better? Not doesn't necessarily make sense. It didn't make logical sense for Michael and I to sell up our house and hit the road. But oh my goodness, what opportunities it has opened up for us to live, love, and experience as a family that we would never have done had we stayed put back in our house, which everyone else thought was big and beautiful and brand new, and it was, but it wasn't energetically where we wanted to go. And it's having the courage to go, okay, I'm going to step beyond where I've been before to create something better, without knowing necessarily where it's going to go. But you know that feeling is in that right direction, because you've sat and taken time to feel, imagine, and create in your mind's eye and in your heart what it is you want for yourself.
You've said all the key things there. It's like following the knowing. And, before you mentioned, the lessons that can be learned. Are they really lessons to be learned? What does that really mean? If we look at that as a pattern of language, does that mean that I got it wrong? Like, if you really look, what comes before a lesson I need to learn? Okay, so I didn't get something. Did I get it wrong? I don't know. We're probably bordering on that, but the flip, you just said it then, right? Was, you know what? None of this logically made sense, that we'd fill up our home, that people perceived this structure that people would see was big and beautiful, and it was our dream. But at the end of the day, we weren't feeling something because of this accomplishment. So what we decided to do was follow a knowing. And the words you used were the opportunity. So is it a lesson? I know they're just a spin on words, but what vibration does it create for you?
You're absolutely right on that.
That just utilizing, and this is for me what is amazing about what I love, and the skill that I've developed is listening deeply to what someone says and reframing back to them their patterns of language, because that's where the perceptual shift will happen. It's like, because opportunity creates a whole different feeling inside than a lesson. For me, it does anyway. And the other thing I wanted to say with that is that we don't see the world how it is. We see the world, we see the world from within us, because the world is happening inside of us. That kind of links back around to that 2% of information coming in through your eyes. You see, it's like maybe 1% in your ears, and so that the rest of that, you do the numbers. That's made up internally. So our perception of the world is actually an inside job.
Just so many things about how people can let go of, like you say, the structure, the ideals that we are born and raised into, and get onto a deeper soul level for, how does this make me feel? How does this life that I'm living, what does this relationship that I'm in, what does this food that I'm eating, how does it make me feel? And I don't just mean, physical, but you feel it within you. How does it make the energy of my soul feel? And use that as a compass to then try different things in your life. What on the surface seems so benign, but for us has had such a huge big impact, is we've given up dairy. I've always had it in my head, and I've got a biology degree, and I've always had it that we're the only species that drinks the lactate of another animal. That is like cow's milk, designed to grow an 800-kilo cow. And it's marketed to us as good, and it may have goodness in it, but my husband particularly has always gone, it's not good for us. And we recently gave it up, largely. We still have a little bit of dairy products in our life, but the cereal and laden with milk and Milo drinks, milkshakes, all that stuff, we don't have any of it. And I cannot tell you the shift in my energy levels, in my health. And I don't necessarily know if that's because of a physical change or because I decided to step outside of what was a confine that you must have this in your life. And ultimately, does it matter? I don't know. And it's quite an interesting thing to look at. And other things we've tried and are still trying, I guess, with the health struggle that we're going through with our son, we're constantly looking at bringing things down to a simpler level, having a good, solid diet, good, solid sleep, do things that elevate us and make us happy. Because when we're happy and are doing things that bring us joy and love and laughter, your body gets out of that state of dis-ease and it can heal itself for so many ailments. And I think people would do well to maybe look at things in their life of what are we looking for, like you said before in our chat, external pleasure and external, blame for a problem or a situation, rather than coming back to a basic of what's on an energetic level do I need within my life and my heart. Yeah.
Now, you mentioned structures, right? So I think structure, change and structure.
Yep.
So I think it's the structures that we have, or the systems that we have, that we need to change or to allow to break down. But when something's not working right, it creates a tension. And so I think it's following the tension.
Yes.
Because how do you know it's tense? You feel it.
Yep.
And so if you follow, because where energy will follow the law of least resistance. So it's like let's get rid of that tension. That's this short term, let's do a quick fix in 5 days, 7 days, whatever. It's this, quick fix mentality that, like, I've got a tension, and if there's tension here, something's going to change. I have a process, and I'm going to lose weight in 30 days. I'm going to lose 10 kilos in 30 days, right? It's like I have tension around that. I need to lose weight, and so if I then follow the thing, it's not going to work, because if you follow the tension will help you to change the structure. Because what will happen is the tension is the feeling.
Yeah.
And when you can, and this isn't woo-woo, because science validates it now. It was woo-woo when I was practicing it and teaching it and working with crystals and chakras and, crystal bowls and doing crazy stuff over, like the stuff I've seen that's happened working with energy and frequency. And, I just have a memory. I remember teaching a course called Sabotage Clearing and Goal Enhancement with a group of energetic healers. And I was doing one little process and showing them, and just the energy that bounced out of this lady. And it's like the stuff that had been sitting in the shadows for a long time. Like, not only did it have a huge effect on her, but it affected everyone in that room. And I think with energy, it's about how, if you lean into that tension and look at or find the way to, it's about transforming that energy. And so we're not taught all of this energy thing or this emotion thing. We're not taught to sit with it. But I think there's a real power in being able to sit with the tension, see where it takes you, because with an internal process inside of you to do that, that's alchemy, making gold out of metal. So if you can do the mining, and that's sitting with yourself, mindfulness, feelingness, sit with that, something pops out, because on some level as well, the greatest perception is that something's missing. And that's the search. Once you realize that what's missing is inside, and that's just value, which means if I can see the situation with my boy's mum all those years ago and not hold on to resentment and anger and rage and all of those things, to see that without that opportunity that occurred, I wouldn't have been able to have the relationship that I have with my son. Who knows what would have happened?
Yeah.
I may not have gone down this path. I might not have been able to resolve issues with my father. He changed. My relationship with my father changed when I changed. Not he needs to change. Oh, I've just done this woo-woo personal development course. Now I'm going to go and vomit over everyone and tell them that that's just your perception and you need to do this stuff. No, it was when I was able to transform my perception of the problem into gold that the situation changed. And for me, that I'm dedicating the rest of my life to doing this for me. I got no problem in saying I'm doing this purely for me.
Yeah.
Because it allows me to be me. It allows me, what I believe is, to live purposefully, live my love, but the flow on effect from that is that we live in a world where we connect and talk to other people. So of course it's going to have a flow on effect.
Oh, I love that. And being able to take what, and where we resist something, there's a saying, what we resist persists. And as long as we're in denial that, and it's not about, there is no blame in anything, but as long as we keep focusing and pushing and wanting a definitive reason and answer, it's your fault, it's because of this, it's because of that. And if you're in that darkness, and as long as you're resisting being in the darkness, and as long as you're pushing back and not going, okay, I'm here, and just breathe for a moment and sit in it for a second, and then go, okay, I don't need that validation or that person to acknowledge whatever it is, because ultimately that doesn't change anything. And then you can just go, okay, I'm just going to now step into the light, because I've let go of holding on to all of that pain and what makes the darkness, and you've stopped fighting it. And then you can move forward. And this is the part that I love about personal responsibility. And I know for you, it's your message in the work you do is all about authenticity, about being real with who you are in that moment, regardless whether that moment is good, bad, or indifferent. You're there. And then you can make the changes to be and vibrate on a different level for where you would like to be and what feels good and what feels right for your soul. But as long as you're constantly denying where you are, you can't get out of that place. And certainly for me, that's what I believe. Until someone said, you have to accept all of this stuff is equally in you, as well as the good stuff is equally in you. And then I went, oh, okay. If I'm creating the shit, I can create the goodness too. And for me, that was the big switch when someone talked about personal responsibility, me choosing to stay in that hole. The more I kept saying it's everyone else's fault, it was my mum's fault, it was my partner's fault, it was this, that, and the other's fault. And when I went, oh, okay, by resisting it, I'm choosing it. And only then could I step away from it, because I'd let it go and let go of the wanting to push it away. And then it just went. And I was able to then create new things and do that same process of whenever I'm finding I'm in another spot, consciously or subconsciously, or something's happened in my life, I didn't like it, but okay, at the moment this few weeks with my son, it's been hell, but it just is what it is. And when Mike and I stopped fighting and getting up in the night and getting angry and being upset that he wasn't sleeping, he's scratching, we're stressed, what do? We went, oh, okay, just have to accept this is the way it is. Maybe waking him up 5-6 times a night isn't helpful. Maybe I need to put some earplugs in. The biggest thing I did this week was put earplugs in. Let go of my mother's guilt, not carry it. Know that my son's going to be okay. He's going to get through this. I got sleep. I instantly became a better mother the next day. And I'm getting all emotional. And it doesn't take much to make me cry this week because I still haven't got enough sleep. But yeah, it's the same thing in life, I truly believe. And I love with your story of being honest with where you are and being authentic, then we can really affect change in our life. And as a flow-on effect, as you said, in others.
Well, yes, I do. And thank you. And I want to acknowledge you for, just sharing part of your story as well. So, it's good when water comes out of the eyes because that's a neurological shift, right? Mm-hmm. So that's pretty cool as well. But to be authentic, to be honest, to be authentic is one thing. To be accepting of, the shit to the shift. I thought you were going to say from the shit to the shift, but use that one if you want it.
Yeah.
That it's allowing yourself to be vulnerable. The 2 V's, allowing yourself to be vulnerable, which is a feeling, but not a victim.
Yes, absolutely.
Because vulnerability can lead to being very empowering.
Mm-hmm.
But if we're not aware that, or if we are unable to be vulnerable, then we will be a victim. And what will happen is we will seek the help of others to stay stuck in that pattern. Because you can't really be a victim by yourself. It takes two to tango.
Mm-hmm.
And also something that you mentioned there about validation. You know, you use the words not having to need validation. I think you just need to find that within yourself. I truly agree. So there's another V, right? So I'll probably make a model out of those 3 V's. Take a note of that one.
Yeah, I have.
It's like we need to nourish our needs. Hey, there's another one. Oh, wow. We need to nourish our needs, but it's not looking for the validation outside, but you certainly need to validate yourself. So as an example, it could be something like, I am a good mum. Validating yourself, or we don't know where we're headed, but it feels right.
Mm-hmm.
We know that my son is going to get past this, and so are we, and we're doing everything that we can. And although I don't know what the hell's going on, I'm doing a freaking good job.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's validating yourself. Now, if you don't fulfill that need within yourself, you'll look for, and there's more than just validation, but that's a big one. I think it's important to, well, for me anyway, when I have needs, which I kind of say are boundaries, or something happens inside of me and they're not being fulfilled, which means I have a conversation with someone and I have a charge based out of what they've said.
Yep.
I just ask myself, all right, Gavin, what's missing? What are you not getting? And then I'll go, all right, so what's the feeling? All right, well, I feel like I'm not being heard. I feel like I'm not getting my voice out. I feel like I'm not being able to be the center of attention here. And I'm just acknowledging that. It's like, I like being the center of attention. And I just own that and find ways to nourish that within me, not looking to be the center of attention somewhere that brings someone else down.
Yeah.
And I think that comes from many, many years of overcoming sabotage patterns and just installing in, I call it in the software systems, success habits, little things. They're just little things. They're little, it's a switching on and a switching off of the cell. So knowing kind of how that works, how do I transform the energy that's polarized inside of me? So sure, that is a process, but I just do things inside that work. And that's why I love sharing that with people, so they can install their own inside of themselves, so they can free themselves up of the restraints, of their stinking thinking, of their limits of the past, all of their stuckness, wherever it might be, pointing the finger of blame. You point the finger, you get 3 back. Yep. Attitudes, values, and beliefs, right? They're just the things, your perception that you're kind of getting back. And it's just a joy, makes me feel good. And actually, I'll share something with you. It actually makes me feel like I'm smart and I know stuff. And I'm okay with that too, because I do it in a way that I share it. It's worked for me and it works for others. Not that I need to say, hey, I'm the smartest, because I'm certainly not the smartest. Yeah. Anyone can do it. It just takes a discipline. It takes a discipline to be stuck for so long. It takes a discipline to stay in a job that you dislike. It takes a discipline to find all the reasons and excuses to go to that job so you can earn the money that you think that you feel you need to have that life. When it's not about the money, it's about the feeling. And you're a great example. We had all of the stuff, and at the end of the day, we're like, well, it's ticked the box. Now what?
Yeah. Oh, so much in here. I would love to sit and chat with you for ages, but I've just had a reminder as my children barged in the door that I need to wrap things up.
Awesome.
How can people connect with you, work with you, find out more about what you do, and I'll put links and stuff in the show notes. But yeah, how
Yeah, look,
can people?
I'll drop some links.
Yep.
You know, like I have a new website coming, so it's like under development, and that's just under my name, Gavin Hyde.
Yep.
.com.au. But like, I'm just like, let's keep it easy. I use Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
Just connect with me on Facebook or send me a message, and I'll just connect with you over Messenger and say hi, and then we can have a chat.
Love it. Oh, and this is the beautiful thing about making social media work for you. And again, not resisting it, but using it in a way that works, that brings minds together. And I absolutely love it. And Gavin, thank you so much for coming on. I really do appreciate it. I'm going to go back and listen to this probably 3 or 4 times and pull out all the many nuggets of gold that we've covered. But yes, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks for having me on your show, Christine, and I wish you, you know, all the prosperity, abundance, health, and all of the good feely things that you deserve.
Oh, great. Awesome.
As always, if you found value in today's episode, please share it with someone who you think needs to hear this message. Please rate and the podcast wherever you're listening to this, and follow it so you get a notification when next week, 5 o'clock on a Thursday morning, Australian Eastern Standard Time, this hits the airwaves. And as always, just keep creating the life you deserve. You know, own your crap, carry it with you. You can't change the past, but you absolutely, hands down, can change every detail of the future and make your life amazing. So have a fabulous week. And yeah, we'll catch you around.